Hello everyone, and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Bill Spencer's voice roared down the hallway. You need to end this. Luna felt she was prepared for the demand, which she had steeled herself against. But hearing it in person stabbed the knife deeper in. Prove your love, Bill had stated. Show that you aren't doing this for attention or drama. For Will's pity. He thought Luna's motivations were twisted and selfish. Perhaps they were. Luna did not want pity. She wanted a chance at redemption. At a family. Something real. Why should I murder what's inside me so you may rest easier? Luna asked, her voice shaking. She pressed her eyes shut against the emotion. It's not like that, Bill said, his tone stern. You're causing anguish for everyone. Electra, the Forestas, and our name. The truth will bring everything down. Luna gripped the small test at her fingers, which proved both triumph and doom. She hoped that this pregnancy would mark the start of something fresh. Perhaps if she kept the baby, she might show that she was more than her errors. However, the margins of that belief were fraying. Will visited at night. Guilt hung on his gaze. Electra, his heart, or whatever he had made of it, was still hers. Luna was a quake in the foundation, and she feared it might break everything in two. He stood at the door, his silhouette like a ghost. Luna wants to reach out. She wanted him to either despise her or love her enough to remain. You know I can't lie to her for much longer, he replied in a weak whisper. I know, Luna replied. I do not want you to detest me. I just wanted you to see me as I am. There was stillness. Then he turned away. She could hear him move down the corridor toward Electra, a life she had no right to question, but adored nevertheless. Electra, once brilliant and confident, was becoming suspicious. She sensed a space between them, a secret she could smell. She tried to plan romantic evenings and modest acts of love, but the gap continued to deepen. Electra got everything ready one night. Candles, champagne, and a pendant she found that recalled her of their early days. She waited, but Will arrived breathless, remorse on his face. She observed him clutching something in his coat pocket. The air stings. What's wrong? She inquired. Will gulped and opened his mouth to speak. But Luna's name lingered in his throat, thick and dripping with truth, and he couldn't speak. Electra's heart sunk, but she faked a grin, hoping everything was fine. Luna lay awake, feeling the baby move. It was small, but hefty in every manner that mattered. When the cramps began, they were moderate at first, and she told herself it was nothing but worry and stress. But then the ache intensified, and she curled up on her bathroom floor, tears mixed with sweat. Blood. Panic. She held her hand to her stomach, praying to some deity she didn't believe in, that it wouldn't happen. That was another lie. Another hoax the world pulled on shattered individuals. She called Will. He rushed in, eyes wild. Luna was pallid. Her dress was stained. He knelt beside her, his arms shaking. Luna, Luna. His voice broke before reaching her. I'm sorry, she said quietly, but for what? Everything or nothing. Electra would be heartbroken. Bill would be infuriated. She'd be more alone than ever. He grabbed her hand. She attempted to smile and convince him she was strong. But her body deceived her, allowing warmth to escape, and all she could do was cling to what was left. The hospital corridor's lights were too bright. The odor of antiseptics and sadness hung heavily. She heard Electra's distant voice, tinged with betrayal. Luna saw Electra's eyes full of pity, heartbreak, and fury, which she had never wanted to witness. Will stood between them, torn. Electra's hand trembled, the necklace remaining in her palm. Luna's breath was shallow. The baby she had believed would make up for all of her mistakes was no longer with her. Nobody blamed Luna. Or, more accurately, everyone blamed her, but they hated her for inspiring so much hope, for offering something she wasn't certain she deserved. Electra stared at her, and Luna could sense the words. Why did you do this to me? Why did you promise me something that didn't exist? Will sank to his knees. I'm sorry, he stated repeatedly. Luna closed her eyes. I'm sorry, too. Later, Bill waited outside her hospital bed, his face pale. He did not demand that she end the pregnancy anymore. He didn't give any help either. He simply stood there, a silhouette of regret. She tried, he explained. Maybe that's something. But how much was it worth? Electra came once. She stood beside the bed, eyes vacant. Luna gazed at her, looking for a sign of forgiveness. She shook her head slightly, tears welling up. Electra's hand hovered, and then dropped. Don't, Electra whispered. Luna nodded, too exhausted to fight. Maybe one day she'll try to make amends. Perhaps one day, Electra will recognize Luna as more than a deception. But not today. Luna's bed was deserted the following morning. Will had left. Electra had left. Bill was nowhere in sight. Only the echo of what was lost, and Luna, alone in her sadness. She closed her eyes, feeling both empty and full of everything she hadn't dreamed for. The urn in her hands was empty, but the space within her was not. It ached. Even though the baby was gone, Luna felt more lost than she had ever been. In the days that followed, the world moved on. Electra attempted to grin again. Will had to collect the parts. Bill had to deal with the aftermath. But Luna wandered, lost in her grief. She opened her door to find the corridor vacant. Her phone would remain unanswered. Electra's necklace remained unfinished. She dreamed at night of her child's laughter, of times when things may have been different. In those dreams, Will held her hand, and Electra forgave. She was not lying. She wasn't scheming. She was only human. When she awoke in the morning, she realized it was gone. Luna still sees a glimmer of hope on occasion. That she can regain trust. That she can be considered deserving. But the world she shattered will not let her sleep soundly. There are some losses that cannot be repaired. So she learns to live each day, one breath at a time, while plagued by what may have been. The fall breeze blew across Los Angeles, bringing with it the subtle perfume of jasmine and the weight of whispered secrets. The Forrester mansion, which is generally associated with grandeur and ambition, felt tense. Electra Forrester, the clan's youngest member, stood by the large window in the living room, her fingers caressing the edge of a crystal vase as she gazed out at the enormous estate. Her pulse hammered, not from the excitement of a new fashion line or the frenzy of a runway show, but from the quiet, unshakable truth she had just discovered. She was pregnant. The news should have been a source of delight, a private celebration of life, but for Electra, it was a dark cloud on the horizon. She hadn't planned for this, especially when her life was already intertwined with loyalties, conflicts, and unsaid vows. Her thoughts returned to the night she had spent with Julian Spencer, the charming but volatile heir to Spencer Publications. It had been a brief moment of vulnerability, a lapse in judgment caused by loneliness and the need to live up to the Forrester name. Now, that moment was going to change everything. Across town, Luna Nozawa sat in her beautiful office at Forrester Creations, her fingers tapping across the polished mahogany desk. Luna had always been thorough about her preparations, down to the tiniest detail. She'd worked relentlessly to establish her place in the Forrester empire, not only as a designer, but also as a key player in the family's complex relationships. Her most daring strategy yet was a strategic collaboration with Liam Spencer to undermine Hope Logan's developing power in the corporation. Luna had spent months establishing the groundwork, ensuring that every component was in place. However, Electra's pregnancy threatened to undermine everything. Luna discovered the news by chance, during a whispered conversation between Electra and her cousin, Ivy, in the design studio late last night. The words had hit Luna like a blow in the stomach. Is Electra pregnant with Julian's child? She had not foreseen this issue. Julian was intended to be a pawn in her scheme, a means to an end. His commitment to Luna's scheme was already fragile. Now, with a kid tying him to Electra, he might abandon it totally. Worse, if the Forresters found out, their priorities would shift, and Luna's carefully crafted empire of power could collapse suddenly. Electra, oblivious of Luna's machinations, felt the weight of her own decisions bear down on her. She hadn't informed Julian yet. How could she? He was charming, but he was also reckless, motivated by his own aspirations and a troubled relationship with his family. For decades, the Spencers and Forresters have been rivals, with their enmity serving as a persistent undercurrent in the fashion and media industries. A child spanning those two worlds would be a scandal, a magnet for gossip and criticism. Electra could already hear the whispering at the next Forrester gala and envision the headlines on tabloids. More than anything else, she was concerned about Julian's reaction. Would he consider this a trap? A burden? Or, worse, would he move away, leaving her to deal with the consequences alone? She slipped into the comfortable sofa, hands instinctively settling on her stomach. The thought of her child, was both bizarre and horrifying. She had grown up in the shadow of her family's past, constantly attempting to show herself worthy of the Forrester name. Her creations were daring and inventive, but she had never felt fully noticed, not by her parents or the industry. This baby, this small creature, was hers in a manner no other had ever been. It also bound her to Julian, the Spencers, and an unknown future. Meanwhile, Luna had already started recalculating. She couldn't let Electra's pregnancy ruin her plans. She needed to act immediately and aggressively. Her initial inclination was to face Electra, to assess her intents, and see if she could be persuaded or misled. But Electra was no fool. She was a Forrester, after all, and had the same obstinate streak as her forefathers. A forthright approach may backfire. Instead, Luna chose to work via Julian. If she could persuade him that Electra's pregnancy jeopardized his own goals, she might be able to keep him on her side. Luna had never shied away from taking risks. She picked up the phone and dialed Julian's number. "We need to talk," she said when he responded, her voice calm but urgent. "Meet me at the cafe on Melrose in an hour." Julian appeared unkempt, his typically polished manner torn at the edges. He'd been avoiding calls from his father, Bill Spencer, who was urging him to take a more active role at Spencer Publications. Julian didn't need another complication, but Luna's tone made it clear this wasn't a casual encounter. "What's happening, Luna?" he inquired, sliding into the booth across from her. The cafe was quiet, with chatter scarcely audible over the clink of coffee cups. Luna leaned forward, her gaze piercing. "Electra is pregnant, Julian. With your child." His face turned pale. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words emerged. Luna kept a tight eye on him, reading every facial expression. Shock, fear, and something else, softer, almost hopeful. That was dangerous. If Julian started romanticizing this, her plan was doomed. "How do you know?" He eventually managed, his voice low. "I overheard her talking to Ivy," Luna explained, her tone remaining neutral. "She has not informed anyone else yet, but it is only a question of time. You understand what this means, don't you? The Forresters will tighten ranks. They will defend Electra and exploit this to draw you into their orbit. You'll be trapped, Julian." Julian's jaw hardened. "Your father will lose his mind, and any influence you have at Spencer Publications will be gone." Luna was correct in one thing. His father would consider this a betrayal. Bill Spencer had no feelings for the Forresters, and having a grandchild related to their family would be a personal insult. But Julian's thoughts were not on his father. It was on Electra, her calm power, the way her eyes lighted up when she talked about her designs, the vulnerability she'd demonstrated to him that evening. He hadn't intended to fall for her, but he did. "And now, a child? I need to talk to her," he replied, jumping up abruptly. Luna grasped his arm. "Think carefully, Julian. If you go to her right now, you will end up in a mess over which you have no control. Allow me to help you. We can figure this out together." But Julian backed away, his mind already made up. Luna curled her fingers into fists as she watched him leave. She'd misjudged him and the power of something as primitive as a child. She needed a fresh strategy, and fast. Back at the Forrester estate, Electra made her own decision. She couldn't keep this secret forever, but she could choose how it was revealed. She called Ivy, her voice quivering but unwavering. "I need your help," she said. I'm going to tell the family about the baby, but I want to do it on my own terms. Ivy came within an hour, her presence easing Electra's emotions. They sat together in the garden, the late afternoon sun throwing long shadows on the groomed lawn. Are you certain you're ready for this? Ivy inquired, her voice sweet yet forceful. Once you tell them, there's no going back. I know, Electra murmured, laying her palm on her stomach once more. But I can't hide from it. This baby deserves more than that. And so do I. The family meeting was scheduled for that evening. Electra stood before her parents, Ridge and Brooke, her siblings, and the entire Forrester clan, her pulse pumping but her resolve unwavering. She told them everything. The pregnancy, Julian, her anxieties, and her hopes. The room was silent for a time as the weight of her words sank in. Then Brooke came forward and drew Electra into a passionate embrace. We're with you, she replied simply. No matter what. But not everyone was as enthusiastic. Steffi, ever the pragmatist, foresaw the probable consequences. This is going to stir things up with the Spencers, she told me. We must be prepared for Bill to attack us. Ridge nodded, his face gloomy. We will manage it. But, Electra, you need to talk to Julian. He has the right to know. Electra nodded, tears in her eyes. She knew Ridge was correct, but the prospect of confronting Julian filled her with fear. What if he rejects her? What if he considered their child a mistake? As the family dispersed, Luna lingered in the shadows, her thoughts racing. Electra's announcement had changed the situation, but it wasn't over yet. She may still use this to her advantage. If she could sow uncertainty between Electra and Julian and keep them apart, she might be able to save her scheme. It was a long shot, but Luna had never shied away from a challenge. That night, Julian arrived at the Forrester mansion with his heart in his throat. Electra greeted him in the garden, where she had sat with Ivy earlier. The air was cold, and the stars were just beginning to show through the twilight. I heard, Julian said before she could speak. Luna told me. Electra's heart plummeted. Luna. Of course. What did she say? She inquired, her tone hesitant. She claimed you were pregnant. That's mine. He took a step closer, his gaze catching hers. Is this true? Electra nodded, her throat tightening. Yes. Julian exhaled and ran his hand through his hair. I was going to tell you myself, but I needed time. I'm not sure what this implies, Electra. For ourselves and our families. But I'm certain I don't want to lose you. Her eyes widened, hope blazing in her chest. Do you mean that? I do, he answered, his voice firm despite the confusion in his head. I'm not claiming it will be simple, but I want to find things out. Together. For the first time in days, Electra sensed a ray of hope. But in the distance, Luna observed from her car, her countenance enigmatic. She'd lost the round, but she wasn't finished. The game was far from over, and Luna Nozawa constantly wanted to win. The next few days flew by. Electra and Julian navigated their new reality, their tenuous bond strengthening even as the world around them appeared to conspire against them. Bill Spencer was outraged, as expected, and threatened to cut Julian off if he joined the Forresters. The tabloids picked up on the tale, and headlines shouted about the Forrester-Spencer heir. The pressure was intense, but Electra found solace in her family's support and Julian's unexpected resolve. Luna, however, remained on the sidelines, biding her time. She knew better than to attack when her emotions were raw. She'd wait and watch for the perfect opportunity to retake her advantage. For the time being, she allowed Electra and Julian to enjoy their delicate happiness, knowing that in the world of the Forrestos and Spencers, happiness was always transitory. Electra's pregnancy became a metaphor of something bigger, an opportunity to unite two feuding families and build something new from the ashes of ancient hatred. However, it also bore the weight of expectation, fear of failure, and the looming shadow of Luna's desire. As Electra stood on the balcony of the Forrester home, looking out at the city lights, she felt a surge of life within her and knew that no matter what happened, she would fight for her child, for her future, for herself. And so the story unfolded, a tapestry of love, betrayal, and ambition, sewn with the threads of a family that thrived on drama and survived on resilience. The bold and the beautiful indeed.